So Team Affinity Season 3 is now here, and just before I made a video showing you guys how to complete it in the most efficient way as possible. So the next step would be to go through, review all of the cards, and recommend ones you should go for right away, or ones you maybe wait a little bit longer to get. Just some general my opinions. I've been playing MLB The Show for a while now, so just based on how players play usually in game, we're going to give like a preliminary review on each card, position by position instead of division by division, just so we can see which players you may need at a certain spot, and show you which players you should be getting right away. Let's get into it. So before we get into the review, a couple of things I want to point out. First of all, these players that just come out, I haven't been able to test many of them, but just in general, I've used a lot of their live series or other versions of their cards in the game, whether it was an online play or offline play. I got some use out of basically everyone, but a lot of these are going to be judged by their attributes off the rip, just because that's all I'm able to use as of now. But overall, I don't think there's going to be a wrong answer for Team Affinity Season 3. Most of these cards are upgrades at each position, and for a lot of you guys, they are likely upgrades for in comparison to a lot of the other players you have right now. So I would just recommend doing Team Affinity, and don't get overly pressured on which players you take, because overall most of them are going to be good and very usable. They're going to be the best cards in the game at this point right now. But without wasting any more time, let's get into our reviews. I'm going to go one position at a time and show you which guys you should be going for first and starting in your lineups, and ones you can maybe wait a little longer to go for. Let's start off with our three catcher options. First, we have JT Realmuto, which looks pretty solid. He's got great attributes versus righties, solid versus lefties. But he does have gold fielding, which honestly I find a little underwhelming for a Realmuto card. He does have better arm strength than the other options, I feel like, so I think he still is going to be the best defensive catcher of the bunch, or at least one of them. But what Realmuto usually has is speed. I would say he's a solid catcher, but I think the other options we're going to go over are going to be a little better. Next, we have Salvador Perez. And the interesting thing with Salvi is he's got better hitting attributes versus both sides than that Realmuto card. He crushes lefties, 125 contact and power. So I want to keep him on my bench for at least lefty matchup, and I do like his swing a lot. I do like to have a backup catcher on my bench, so he will at least be on my bench. And I could potentially platoon him with that Kyle Schwarber card. But the thing with Salvador Perez, the 38 speed is going to be slow. The defense actually isn't bad, but again, nothing amazing. Does have gold defense, 79 blocking. He's going to be actually nearly as good a defensive catcher as Realmuto, but with better hitting. Next, we have Mike Zunino, who I think actually is going to be a little underrated for a Team Affinity card. Yes, 45 contact versus right is very low, but overall, this card's actually very nice. Crushes lefties just like that Salvador Perez, but he still does have 125 power versus right. If you are someone who plays on All-Star or below, you probably shouldn't have much issue with that 45 contact. But if you're someone that liked the Gary Sanchez but realized he wasn't great versus lefties, then this card is going to be in that same boat. He does have better defense, though. He actually has the best defensive attributes out of all three catching options. There are two first basemen we got to cover. First of all, Matt Olson, which honestly, this is easily a top 4-3 first baseman in the game right now. Over 100 power versus both sides. His swing plays well, and he has reverse split, so he's going to be better versus lefties attribute-wise. It's not a bad thing with this card, because he still is nearly just as good versus righties. His swing plays really well, and, defense isn't a must at first, but diamond fielding is really nice. It's a great first base option if you don't have Poppy, you don't have Tommy, and if by chance you don't have any other first base option out there like that Jonathan Scope for the monthly award program. This is a very viable first baseman right here. Jared Walsh, looking at the attributes, looks like a great bench bat versus righties. The attributes versus lefties, again, a little low, the 52 contact. He's like that Mike Zunino, where that contact could only be an issue on higher difficulties for the most part. But if you are on like all-star veteran difficulty in ranked season, this card will be more than fine. But keep in mind, you may want to have a platoon option for him just because that lower contact and power. Also, he does have a reliever secondary. I don't know how that plays, but I wouldn't really focus on that at all, because this is a position player at the end of the day. Now to our second baseman. First of all, we have Ozzy Albies. And this card is actually interesting. Gold fielding. He is a switch hitter, which, the attributes versus righties are a little weaker, but definitely aren't bad. But he does have that switch hitting benefit, so if he is versus a righty, still is going to be having the matchup benefit. So you're never going to be doing righty or lefty. Good all-around second baseman, but crushes lefties. And at this point in the game, there are a fair amount of good lefties. Ozzy's a great option at second base, and maybe even get away with him at shortstop. Next, we got Jake Cronenworth, who can honestly be a good match with Ozzy Albies if you want to platoon those two. He again has a reliever secondary, but Cronenworth can play basically anywhere in the infield. Crushes righties with 106 and 97. A little better versus lefties in comparison to, say, Ozzy Albies versus righties. So a little bit better of a two-sided hitter, and he has better speed. So this might be the better second base option just because how well-rounded his attributes are. Finally, Adam Frazier, who has the best defense of the bunch and the highest contact. If you're someone who likes those contacty-like players, this is a great one to get. But do I recommend using this card too much? I mean, the power versus righty, definitely too low for me to really want to use this card. But if you're someone who has some bad defenders, maybe you want to keep him on your bench. You can put him basically anywhere in the field except for first base. Catcher, so if you have that versatility type thing, get a good defender anywhere, Adam Frazier would probably be your guy. Now on to our third baseman. First, we're going to start off with Rafael Devers, which I'm surprised that they gave him such dramatic splits. I thought he would have been a little better versus lefties than they made him, but still, not too bad. Crushes righties. Defense isn't terrible, but I would really think with Mr. Devers here that for a third base option, if you want really good power versus both sides, this card might not be it for you. I like to choose a third baseman with big hitting attributes versus both sides. But overall, definitely not a bad card. His swing plays very well as well. Jose Ramirez honestly may be one of the more underwhelming cards. Yeah, Jose Ramirez is a phenomenal hitter, but it feels like the power and that contact versus right really didn't get represented enough in this card. I mean, if he had a little more contact versus right and maybe closer to 80 power versus left, I would say this card is a great use. But right now, I think there are also better options in this Team Affinity that you can maybe slot in at third. But again, Ramirez does have that versatility playing anywhere in the infield, switch hitter. And I do enjoy his swing. Not everyone likes a small strike zone, but I enjoy his swing. And finally, Eduardo Escobar, who personally would be my personal pick as a third baseman. Switch hitter like Jose Ramirez, but does have power versus both sides and better contact versus both sides. 79 fielding isn't much of an issue. One parallel, he gets up to gold fielding. And he could basically play anywhere except for center. So I think Eduardo Escobar plays really well in this game. And this one is probably your go-to third baseman out of this program. You only have one shortstop, and that is Trey Turner. Looking at Trey Turner here, I think this card is actually nasty. 99 speed, so he's going to be a pest. Super high contact versus both sides. And 99 and 85 power. If you guys have used any Trey Turner card, you know that his swing plays really well in this game, and this is actually going to be my starting shortstop. If you don't have a second baseman, you may want to slide him over there, or maybe play him in center field, because that fielding may be an issue at shortstop. Now we go to left field. Our only option is Michael Brantley. He's a big lefty bat. 83 fielding is actually not too bad either. People like his swing as well, but the 44 speed, not ideal. But at this point, there's so many good outfielders. There are better options than Brantley, but I would say if you really like his swing, if you need a lefty outfielder, and you are someone who struggles with smaller PCIs on Hall of Fame or Legend difficulty, he's a viable option out there. Just keep in mind you only want to play him in left because he has a very weak arm and very slow speed, so at least you could hide him out there. Now we go to our center fielders. First, we got Cedric Mullins, which I think the offensive attributes are absurdly good in this card. This is a very viable center fielder right here. Even despite that lower fielding, he does have 84 speed, so he will have solid range out there. But the bat is what you're getting this card for. He's like that Trey Turner, but instead of lefty and an outfielder. Great option that I'm honestly going to give a go somewhere. And especially if you don't have many lefty bats in your lineup, Cedric is a great guy throwing your outfield in any of the three positions. But I'd play him in center or left. Chris Taylor actually doesn't look too bad. He's got a pretty solid swing for my use of him this year. Gold fielding. The speed's a little lower than Mullins, but he does have better defense. And he does have that matchup advantage versus lefties. But it's still very solid versus righties. Honestly, might be a better third base option than Jose Ramirez. Probably gonna be underused outfielder. And then finally we get Adolis Garcia. which he's like Cedric Mullins, where the defense isn't that great, but the speed is going to cover up more range. But the hitting attribute, if you like a more power heavy hitter, you should do Adolis Garcia. If you like the contact heavier guys, go for Cedric Mullins. But overall, I think this card is very nasty. I like the tops now. Adolis Garcia's swing. I may find a way to squeeze in my outfield, but I'm not really sure. That power should really play, though. Now, finally, we go to right field, where you have a few options. First one being Mr. Nicholas Castellanos, who, if you look at the hitting attributes, are probably some of the most well-rounded hitting attributes you'll see in the entire program here. High contact, 125 and 124, really good. Like, that's going to be some of the best in the game. But he doesn't lose out in power, 99 and 111 power. Honestly, even though he's a right fielder, I would play him in either left field or maybe slot him at first. He's got a big enough bat to be a good bat at first or third, without the defense being much of an issue. Again, that defense in the outfield could be a tad bit of an issue. It's kind of the balance in this card. One of the biggest bats, not great defense. Overall, this is one of the best TA cards, though. Aaron Judge. I know some people may say, oh, Yankee bias, but this card is definitely one of the best couple cards overall in the program. Crushes lefties with 113, 124. Solid versus righties. The 89 contact isn't low, but it could be a little better in comparison to other cards we have in the game right now. But the thing that Judge has, 99 fielding, 90 arm, some of the best defense in the game, along with what I think is a very good swing. Only downside with a Judge card, kind of like a Giancarlo Stanton, some people don't like the big strike zone. Personally, I don't have an issue with it, and I feel like most people don't. They just kind of say it's an issue and don't even bother using the card. But I absolutely recommend throwing him in right field on your team if you need an outfielder. I'm going to be using him for a while, and I'm excited to get him. Next, we have Teoscar Hernandez, who I think is going to be a better off of a bench bat over a starting outfielder. Again, 71 fielding isn't great, and the 81 speed can cover up more range. But again, he's a right fielder. I would probably think he's only okay in the corner outfield. He does crush lefties, which, like I said before, there are a fair amount of lefty pitchers that are great in this game right now. That could be very valuable, but I think the power versus right is a tad bit low. But not that it's bad. This card is definitely a viable option, but almost like a not as good Castellanos, I feel like. So I think that this card is, it's solid. And then finally, Nelson Cruz, which, come at me for this, I feel like is not even as good as Aaron Judge, offensive attribute-wise. Yes, he does have 121 power versus righty, which is more than Judge. But again, this card is no more than a bench bat. 52 fielding, you do not want to put in your outfield at all. I wouldn't even recommend starting him at all. That fielding is going to be atrocious. But the bat is there. He's a great bench bat option. If you don't have the daily one, get this one. And I'm not sure how it stacks up in comparison to that, but one of the better bench bat options in the game right now. So overall, those are the hitters. Let's go into our pitchers now and see how they stack up. First, we have 99 Jacob deGrom, which overall wise is the best card. I think it's safe to say this card is going to be the best pitcher option out of Team Affinity for sure. He's got amazing attributes all around. He's also got the outlier on the four-seam fastball, so he's going to be throwing over 100. His pitch mix plays pretty solid, despite him not having a sinker or a cutter. It would have been nice to see a sinker instead of a two-seam, but even still, deGrom still can pitch very solid with that outlier. He does have a good variety of speed. He's at the 100 mile per hour, 92 mile per hour, the high 90 mile per hour, 88, and 82. So he's got good speed mixes. This is one of the best pitchers in the game right now. If you're looking for a starter, definitely pick him up first. Oh yeah, almost forgot to cover. Hitting attributes. He's got somewhat usable hitting attributes. For a pitcher, that's very good. Next, we have Kevin Gausman, which honestly is going to be a little underused. I can already tell not many people are going to use this card. Only issue is that his pitch speeds are too close to each other. 4 of his pitches are within 5 miles per hour of each other, so it's going to be tough to change speeds and time that up well. But can be a very usable starter at this point in the game. The attributes are there, and you can get away with using him. He's not going to be the best by all means, though. Next, we got Carlos Rodon, which is a lefty starter, and he does have better differentials in the speed. He's got 2 fastballs. He's got the slider, changeup, curveball, and they're all in different speeds. So I feel like he's going to be a little bit more usable than that Kevin Gausman, but I do think that this card is not going to be super impressive by any means. I just don't think the stuff is good enough on this card for me to warrant him being amazing. Hopefully that break in the slider plays really well. I got a feeling it will, but we'll have to see how it goes in game. Next, we have Trevor Rogers, who again is like Rodon. He does only have 4 pitches. Very basic pitch mix on this card. The attributes, again, aren't bad. The control on the changeup is neat, and he's got good break on the fastballs and the changeup. But again, the fastballs are basically 1 mile per hour off each other. The changeup and slider are 2 miles per hour off. There isn't much to mix with this pitcher. I think Rodon is a better lefty than he is. Next, we got Yusei Kikuchi, who has got a little worse attributes than those other lefties, but if there's anything he has the benefit of, he has the fastball, cutter, slider. And I think his mix is a good mix to tunnel each other off with. You can play the fastball, slider, cutter, all at the one part of the zone, mess with people with dotting up the cutter and throwing the slider out of the zone. And they are good differentials in speed. Just that Kikuchi doesn't have the most nasty stuff by all means, you know. The break is very solid, but it's not going to be amazing. Doesn't have crazy velocity. He honestly may be one of the better lefty starters in this, though. And finally, German Marquez, who has the least exciting attributes out of all of the pitchers, but, you know, he does have 5 pitches. He has fastball, sinker. He does have a slider and a knuckle curve. It's a solid pitch mix, but again, the speeds and all the breaking balls are basically the same. I also heard his card does have some hitting attributes. He does, but I wouldn't really think that's beneficial. That's not going to add too much to the card. Not like he's like Jacob deGrom. But this card could be a solid righty starter if you need one. And finally, the relievers and closers. First, we get Craig Kimbrell. He's got 3 pitches. Fastball, knuckle curve. I mean, not that this card is bad by all means, but you know. I feel like the pitch mix is going to be the issue. The 2 fastballs are basically the same speed. The knuckle curve is going to be solid if you can hit the spot, but it's the only breaking ball. Only throw them into your bullpen if you really need relievers, but I think like that Lee Smith, that Dennis Eckersley are even better relievers than this Craig Kimbrell. Next, we have Josh Hader, who I think would be one of the better relievers in the game. He does have the changeup, and this is like live series Hader, except he does have better attributes, and he does have good control on the fastball, slider, and he's gonna have some nasty break, 99 break in the 2-seam. I'm curious how that'll play. And with the lack of lefties in the game, you'll likely find a spot in your bullpen. He will in mine. Next, we have Alex Reyes, who honestly is gonna be a very scary card. He has a 97 mile per hour fastball, but outlier on the sinker. So it's like Edward Cabrera, where it goes over 100 nearly consistently. He has a slider, changeup, and 12-6. For a reliever with 5 pitches, that's not a common thing. And he's got 5 nasty pitches. Last but definitely not least, Gregory Soto, who I think might be the best lefty reliever in the game right now. He doesn't have the best control or break, honestly. But what he's going to have is amazing velocity. He has outlier on the sinker, just like Alex Reyes, but he's a lefty, which is kind of scary. The attributes are great other than the control. The control is going to be a moderate issue. Almost like a better Aroldis Chapman, I would say this card is the best comparison. A nice lefty reliever that should play very well in this game. I want to keep in mind there is a 99 Shohei Ohtani card in the game. We don't know how to get it at this point. I'm recording it, so we'll have to see how it turns out. But man, this card could be scary. Oh yeah, by the way, he has 125 power versus both sides, by the way. And this is a pitcher. Like, what? This card may be a collection card for all 30 Team Affinity, so like I said before, don't be afraid to get all of them and give them a go, because you're going to want to collect them and hopefully get this Ohtani card that is likely the collection card at the end of it. But that's going to be it. If you disagree with my opinions, agree. Whatever you think about Team Affinity, make sure you drop in the comments. I'll definitely love to hear your responses on it in there. But overall, that'll be it. I'll be testing these cards over the next few weeks on the Twitch channel. If you want to come hang out, ask me any questions, or see me use these cards live, come swing by and hang out with us. But you all have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the TA grinding. This is a big content drop. I'm so excited for all the stuff we're going to find out with the Home Run Derby coming later today. But that'll be it for me right now. You all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next. Deuces. Deuces.